Welcome to Health Oddity, the show that strips away the jargon and hype surrounding all things health and fitness to help you live a long, strong and energetic life. Lining up at the bar this week, here's Peter Lant, Paul Bassett and James St. Pierre.
Hello and welcome to the Health Oddity podcast, episode 119. Now, we are back this evening. We are recording on a Monday night for us, but it is a Monday morning for our guest who is joining us from, I think, Modesto, California. Is that right, Mike?
That is correct.
That is correct. Good. But before I introduce you to our guest, I'll just check in with our usual. It's just myself and Pete today on the podcast. I will just check in with my usual co-host, Mr. Peter Lant. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. I think Paul's done 2 in a row, hasn't he? So he must be a bit tired. it's about time for him to have time off.
He's gone for a lay down. Okay, yeah, he's gone for a lay down.
But yeah, I'm all right. I've had a super busy day today, which again, I was speaking about this last week. I'm really busy at the minute, which I'm not. I don't like to be. Well, and it's not that I don't like to be busy. It's just I haven't been for years. I'm starting to build stuff back up again, like we spoke about last time. So it's interesting, and it's been chucking it down all day today. I don't know if our illustrious guest won't know what rain is, but we get it. And I think it's the second day in his lifetime that my dog hasn't been out for a proper walk today. So apologies to Sid.
No, it's been chucking it down with rain all day here as well. We were shut for a couple of days over the weekend doing a bit of a gym refurb. At Unique Results, which is looking fantastic. So I'm at home now, and I've got Nikki and Russ there working this evening, and I'm, like I say, just going to do this and then probably sit down and have a beer and watch a bit of TV afterwards. Which is
I've got a quick. You do this usually. I've got a quick congratulations to my online client, Tony, as well. Tony McGonnell. You were at the SFG2 with him, weren't you? James.
Back in May.
So it was last weekend he pressed the 32 to get his level 2, to get his SFG2. And then Claire approved it. He sent it off to her and she approved it this weekend, I think. So congratulations, Tony, if you're listening.
Congratulations, Tony. That's brilliant. Yeah. And also I know the Kettlebell Sport World Championships out in Belgium. A few of our previous guests are out there, aren't they? And I know that Gareth Malloy, who's not been on, but he won gold for Ireland in the pentathlon.
Ben Morris I saw a picture of him with an England flag standing on podium 3. So presumably he got the bronze. I think the whole
of the England team kind of won. The team, they got the most medals.
Yeah, they did. Yeah,
I know that Ireland were out there, and I'm sure Finbar, will have done very well. And I know Lauren was competing, but we don't have all the results to get to. That was just this weekend, obviously over in Belgium. So well done to everyone who was out there. Anyway, enough of that. We are going to move on to our guest today, who is very kindly joining us, like I said, from California. We have Mike Sousa with us today, who is a senior instructor with Strongfirst. I think it was 5 years ago, I was redoing my SFG1 as a participant, Strongfirst level 1 as a participant, and Mike was my team leader there. And then this last October, just gone last month, I was assisting, and I was really happy to be assisting on Mike's team as well. And while I was there, I asked if he would be so kind to come on the podcast and share some stuff with us. And he very kindly agreed. So welcome, Mike, from California in the USA. How are you doing today?
Oh, doing good, man. Hey, happy to be here. Honored. Had a great time with you and all the rest of the participants at the SFG in Lillyshaw. Such a beautiful venue there. It's what Jason Marshall dubbed it the Hogwarts of Strength. So it's a beautiful venue. I mean, I love going to England. That's my second time there. So yeah, doing good.
Excellent. And you also are the owner of the Brick House, aren't you? Where you are, and we'll talk about it a bit later, I'm sure. But you you showed us some amazing photographs of the kind of outdoor wooden structure that I think you said that you made with your father-in-law, was it? The kind of the outdoor gym that you've got there is just incredible. It's like a work of art, isn't it?
Yeah, so my gym is actually out of my house. So on the back part of my property is actually where my garage is. And I had this open area right next door to the garage that one day I wanted to turn into an extension to my gym. Well, when COVID happened, actually right before COVID happened, one of my members of my gym, she was talking about cutting down these massive redwood trees that were on her property. And so I asked her if I could just take the wood because I wanted to start building this project. So kind of long story, but she gave me the big logs. I mean, 30-foot pieces. They were massive, massive trees. And my father-in-law and I cut them with chainsaws and made beams out of them. So we milled the wood ourselves, hand milled with chainsaws. And then I used what's called a rasp. It's like a giant file, and kind of smooth and evened out the logs. And then I made these massive, like they're 7 inches by 14-inch beams, about 30 feet long. And then we hoisted them up by hand and pulleys and built this giant, basically looks like a cabin out next door to my next to my garage. So I have an indoor garage part of my gym, and then I have like a bigger area outside that's built with just wood.
Because it's almost like
that sounds like a scene from Witness. You know the film with Harrison Ford in. Have you seen that? With it, where he goes
undercover with the
Amish, yeah.
The Amish,
and they're all built like they're pulling up all the structures and stuff like that, all built with like massive wooden structures.
Very similar, yeah,
very sounds
similar.
like that.
I was going to say,
hand forged. Each beam weighs like 1,000 pounds at the time we hung them. I mean, it was pretty heavy. So then also one of my members, her father is a retired roofer, so he built roofs his whole life. So then he came in, and then we built the roof by hand. So it's a custom built roof, form fitted everything. So the whole entire structure was built by hand. I hand nailed everything in. Everything's built. It could withstand like a 6.0 earthquake. That thing is massive. So yeah, it was a fun project. I actually just got done, like as we speak right now, I've transferred from wood building to stone masonry work. So I'm actually excavated my whole front part of my backyard, and I'm putting a paver patio and outdoor barbecue area. So I've spent the past 3 weeks, actually right when I got back from the UK, I went and I excavated my whole backyard, sledgehammers breaking up old concrete, manually taking it out. And I've just, like this weekend, I probably laid about 4,000 pounds of paver stone by hand. Each block weighed like 100 pounds. So it was a very tough project.
Can I just say, if anyone's listening to this and thinking like, oh, right, so it only takes 3 weeks to excavate your yard or whatever. Mike's considerably strong, so it might take a bit longer than 3 weeks for your average strength person.
So I'm almost done, but yeah, it was. So I went from woodworking to stonemason in between my training job.
I was going to say it's almost a bit like a more rustic kind of Mr. Miyagi's back garden, you know, from Karate Kid, where he's got the kind of the Japanese or Okinawan style training and everything's but sanded down. But yours is very, very obviously like the brick house. It's rustic, it's strong, it's big, it's, you know, like you said, it's going to survive. You know, it'll be there hundreds of years from now, probably, won't it?
Definitely. It's not the house of straw. So the wolf can't blow this house down, that's for sure.
So, Mike, do you want to just kind of, because I don't actually think I probably have, you know, we've obviously met a few times, but I don't think I have probably heard your origin story, if you like, before. So you just want to kind of tell us and the listeners just a little bit about, I suppose, about yourself, about your life, about, you know, if you were kind of into athletics or sports growing up, and how you got into strength, and how you've kind of moved into, you know, into what you do now, if that's okay.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, I grew up, 80s action heroes were the thing, you know? So Arnold is like my idol, Stallone, Van Damme, Dolph Lundgren, all the big action heroes. I mean, like Predator is like one of my top movies of all time, right? So it's like my whole life has been molded to be like this manly, tough, roughneck kind of individual, you know, Terminator and all that stuff. So I've always liked the visual of strength. I've always idolized big muscles and, you know, just the presence of strength. So then fast forward to when I actually started exercising. When I was in probably high school, I started. You know, and in high school, you don't know what you're doing. You're just going into the gym and just doing a bunch of machine stuff, and you just try everything in the gym. So anyway, I played high school football. I was pretty good at high school football, made like all league team and all that stuff. But, you know, I got out of high school and I was doing the junior college thing around here. I thought I was going to play junior college football. Didn't really work out. College kind of didn't work for me with just certain things happened. And I ended up going into the workforce, and I started working construction. I started doing just a couple dead end jobs, really just tough, rough jobs, you know, manual labor. If manual labor teaches you anything, is you cannot be weak-minded or weak physically. I mean, you have to be tough on both ends. So learned a lot of grit and things you don't want to do, like wake up at 2 a.m. because you have a job 3 hours away and you're getting paid per piece of like drywall or something. You know, you learn to hustle and you learn to build some toughness. So anyway, I was going to a couple dead-end jobs, ended up getting a job at a tire shop, working on brakes, working on tires and stuff like that. And my a guy I worked with, who was the same age as me at the time, I was 22. He lost 100. He was tired of being overweight. He was 300 pounds, lost 100 pounds on his own, and within 9 months. Well, after that, he quit the tire shop, and across the street was a commercial gym. And all of a sudden I didn't see him for a couple months. And then he shows back up just to say hi, because we're pretty good friends. And he was dressed in a trainer gear. And I was like, well, how'd you, because I've always wanted to be a trainer. I didn't go to college really. You know, I took a couple dead end classes, didn't have any proper guidance to get there, didn't know how to do it. So he was like, oh, well, they teach you how to be a trainer at this commercial gym. So at that point, a light bulb popped up in my head, and I submitted 7 applications in 2 weeks. You know, I would submit an application, call the next day, be like, hey, wondering if you got my application. And for me not knowing, I was talking to the front desk lady. She had no idea if I sent it or not. So she would just be like, no, I don't see it. So I'd be like, okay, well, here's another one, and here's another one, and here's another. I just kept doing it until I finally got a call, and like, damn, this guy won't leave us alone, you know? So it's kind of forced my way into the industry just by being stubborn and not taking no for an answer. And then at that point, got my NASM, which is like, I don't know if you guys have NASM over there.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Okay, so got my NASM within a couple months. And then, you know, I'm just doing the commercial gym training. You know, you teach the OPT model at NASM, where stability, you know, first, and then strength, and, you know, or hypertrophy, then strength. So it was about 1.5 years in to being a trainer. One of the sales representatives that sold gym memberships, he saw that there was a kettlebell in the gym. We had a training room for all the trainers in the commercial gym that was the size of a broom closet. But all of us had to go in there and train our individuals. But there was this one rubber kettlebell that I didn't even know what it was like dusty, pushed in the corner. And he's like, oh, you guys got kettlebells? Oh, I love kettlebells. And started saying all this crap. And I was just like, I have no idea what you're talking about, dude. Why don't you know your role and go over there and sell a membership, you know, because I'm the 1.5 year trainer. I know everything. So So anyway, he's keep pushing me to, you know, like, oh, I gotta teach you how to use this. I'm like, okay, fine. So about like a month in, I was like, all right, you know, teach me what you know with this kettlebell. So he brought in a pair of 16s and just kind of showed me pretty much like a clean press, a very, very poor swing, but showed me kind of what you can do with it. And all of a sudden I just fell in love with it. I was just like, wow, this is actually a really cool tool. You don't have to put the equipment down. You could move from a press to a squat, you know, and I was still very young into training, so I didn't really know the world of fitness at all. So anyway, he actually trained with an RKC at the time. This is in 2009. Trained with an RKC, told me about it. I found the RKC on YouTube and watched their promo video with like David Whitley and Pavel and Joanna and Mark Chang and all these people. And I was like, wow, this is it. Like I was trying to find an identity in my training on how I'm going to start training people. And when I saw that video, I was like, well, this is it. So then as a new trainer, you know, the RKC was really expensive. It was about $3,000 to pay for it, you know, US dollars, which I wasn't making that much as a trainer, but I saw value and I was like, okay, well, I got to do this. So I found a way to pay for it. I believe they did payments at the time. And then, yeah, I trained for it. I trained poorly for it, but I trained for it. Because, you know, now we have the internet where they send you an email and there's videos galore of here's the tip for your swing. And in 2009, 2010, we didn't have any of that. So they send you this packet like this thick. And I'm reading through it and I'm like, goblet squat, psh, I don't even know that. Turkish get up, psh. Where's the test? Okay, snatch test. Okay, what's the kettlebell snatch? I had to look that up. And then I just trained the snatch test. That's all I trained, you know. And I muscled my way through the RKC in August of 2010. So that's kind of my intro to the kettlebell. And then, you know, as Pavel created Strongfirst, I went over with Strongfirst. I attended many seminar certifications between then and now. I mean, trained under Dan John, David Whitley, Mark Rifkin, Pavel many times. I mean, Jeff Newport, Jeff O'Connor, Doug Nepidal, I mean, Fabio, you know, all the greats, you know. So then just kept kind of being stubborn and sticking around. You know, it's kind of the name of my game is just not taking no for an answer. I would just show up everywhere and then just kind of sharpen my sword. You know, got really good at cueing, got really good at having the coach's eye on seeing something and knowing where the direction it needs to go. And then after I assisted, you know, dozen times at certifications, I then got promoted to team leader about 6 years ago, I think, something like that, 6, 7, yeah, it was about 6, 7 years ago. And then, yeah, I just recently got promoted to senior this past year, which is pretty cool. So that's kind of like the fast forward to like kind of what I've been, but I pretty much, I didn't have any collegiate background into training. My whole knowledge started with pretty much the RKC. And then I learned how to teach people proper strength training through Pavel's system, through Strongfirst. And then obviously I've done many other workshops from other people that has helped hone in my skill and sharpen the sword, like Gray Cook. We used to do the CKFMS and FMS stuff like that. And yeah, and just kind of always learning, always just trying to make the sword sharp as possible.
So your friend then, who, going back to the sort of almost the start of that story, your friend who you worked with doing the tires and all that stuff, and he lost 100 pounds, and then he went and became the trainer in the corporate gym. So he kind of, I suppose, in a way, was responsible for, you know, for opening your eyes to that possibility of you doing that. I mean, is he still a trainer now? Do you still know him, or have you lost contact with him? Or
lost track, but I mean, here's the thing, in like a commercial gym, it's pretty cutthroat. So you start out making $0. So if you don't have it, you know, or have another supplementary income coming in as you're building your clientele, it's hard to make that your job. So from my understanding, he left like 2 or 3 months after I showed up, and he became a bartender. you know. So he switched jobs completely. But you know what? Kind of backtrack. What helped me build my training career was I was a bouncer and a doorman at a nightclub. So I would work all day at the gym, and then I would start working at the nightclub at 9 p.m. at night, work till 3 a.m., which was a perfect time because I could still train people during the day. So I would just work all night, go to bed at like sometimes, 6 in the morning if we're hanging out with other bouncers and stuff, and go work at like 9 a.m. the next day at the gym and train people till like 7 p.m. and then go work at the nightclub. And I did that for like almost 3 years, building my clientele up until I became actually the manager of trainers at the commercial gym. And then they kind of restricted what I was able to do because they allowed me to buy all my kettlebells. I was already an RKC at the time. They allowed me to do all this stuff. And then all of a sudden they're like, well, you can't bring in your own kettlebells. It's now a liability. They had new management. So at that point, it kind of forced me out the door. And I opened up a gym with 3 other of my friends at the time and business partners. And we created our gym at the time it was called Full Force Personal Training. And I owned that for 5 years. And, we were very successful for not knowing a damn thing. I mean, we knew how to train people, but man, business wise, I mean, that was the straw house. That could have been blown over in a gust of wind. It was horrible. Business model was horrible. We had no backing whatsoever. So I learned a lot. And then I built the brick house, and I've been here for 7 years.
Fantastic. So, and I take it because, so you obviously, you were at did you say you were at the commercial gym for about 3 years, were you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you were at your kind of other facility that you kind of co-owned with a few other guys for 5 years. But then now, obviously, I suppose over those 8 years of working, you, like you say, you got your RKC, you obviously developed your own, I suppose, training persona and your training direction, and you knew what you're interested in, and you sharpened the sword and got good at those things. And now that you're just kind of operating on your own, I suppose, at your facility that you've got that's built around your house, you've just got a really good community there. You just people know you, and you just train people for years there, haven't you? I think.
Oh yeah, like my longest running clientele, I have 2 that have been with me for 14 years. Average person that had in my gym has been with me around 8 to 11 years.
Wow.
So that's the average clientele I have. So I have about 50 members. I would say about 30 plus have been with me over 8 years. So, and I think that has to do with the way my model is. And I think what we have an issue in, especially in the American industry for training, is you need to make money in this industry. Well, how do you do that? Well, you need people. Well, if you are doing one-on-one training, you have to charge a higher dollar for you to get your income that you need to survive. So you need to get, say, 8 people an hour, or maybe if you do half-hour sessions, you need to get 16 people for an 8-hour workday. Okay, well, let's just say, because I used to do, for the first 7 years of my career, I did only half-hour training. And the issue with that is you're limiting the amount of time you get to spend with someone based on how much money they make. But I'll pause right there for a second. So anyway, so in one-on-one sessions, you have to charge a higher dollar for people to see you. In a class setting, like say you're doing a boot camp, it's a term phrase here for a big class, you have to charge a low amount, and you have to expect 20, 30 people to show up just to make your dollar, okay? Then you have somewhere in the middle where you do like a semi-private session where you have 4 to 5 people in the hour, and then you have certain times, and then you're trying to fill up the time slots. So I have to get 4 this hour. Sometimes you might have 2, sometimes you might have 5, and you're balancing out that way. The issue that I have found with a lot of those methods is you're limiting the individual's exposure to you. Okay. So it's like, okay, you pay X amount of dollars and you could come see me X amount of times. Well, if you really want to help someone to be healthy, there shouldn't be a value to how many times a week you could come see me. I mean, like, okay, if this person sees me more, that means they're paying me more money. It's kind of contradictory to the whole health. It's like you pay me more money, you get healthier, right? So over the years, since I expanded my space with the wooden structure, I have able to develop a model where I do not have an appointment time. I have a certain block of time that is like a commercial gym setting, like an open gym, where my members can just sign up. I charge a flat rate for just a membership to my gym, and you're going to come train with me. And you could come see me twice a week. You could come see me 5 days a week. It just depends. You could come see me for an hour and a half. You could come see me for 45 minutes. It's basically like a commercial gym with a private, semi-private feeling. Sometimes, like this morning, I started at 6 a.m. I had 2 people at 6 a.m. At 6:20, I had 2 more people show up. By 7 o'clock, there was 10 people in my gym. So on my end, it's really good because I have people just slowly coming in. They get to come at their own time. They're not rushed to come to an appointment time. They could, I woke up late. Normally, if you'd wake up late and you had an appointment, you're probably going to miss the appointment. Well, in my situation, now they just show up 10 minutes behind what they thought they would come. And they don't have that stress of rushing to an appointment. So now I've had this model where I'm taking away factors that would not allow someone to stay with you. I picked times like for instance, my block of time is from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. So you could come in that 4-hour span in the morning, you could come train with me. And then also from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. within that 3-hour block, you could come train. So 7 hours in my day I have open for people just to randomly show up. Now they have to sign up for a block just so I know who's coming and I could schedule appropriately. It's not like, oh, wow, surprise, you're here. Sometimes that happens because, people don't like to sign up all the time, but that's another story. But
I know about that.
But, I have people, they come in less stressed. And I also created a price point in my area that is kind of middle of the range, where I'm not charging this dirt cheap price where I'm getting people that don't see value in what they want. And I'm not having this major expensive price where one, if I lose someone, it's detrimental. If you lose one client at a high price, that's a detriment. You're going to try to scramble to get that one person. So if I lose someone, it's not the biggest hit. But at the same time, I pick a price point where the person doesn't think like, oh, I can only afford this for 6 months. It's a price point where they could input it into their income and not worry if they can afford it or not. And they still get the value, and they're still paying enough value for training. It's not like a dirt cheap price where you get the bottom of the barrel clientele that, read the tabloids and they think, oh, I'm going to get abs in 6 weeks. No, I create a standard when they come in, and I have all walks of life that come train here, all the way from high school football players to the oldest one I have right now is 83. And they all share a space, and they're all training like they should be, but they're just in a very private, commercial feeling gym. And everyone's training legitimately, not like if you go to a commercial gym, you have to bring your popcorn and, close your eyes because you're going to see some horrific technique and horrible standards of lifting, So that's kind of like the model I've done is like an open model of my hours of operation.
So in terms of that, then that's really interesting. Do you cap it so that you can, you've got 50 members total. Do you kind of each sort of 3 or 4 hour slot that you've got, do you kind of cap it so you only allow a certain number to book in? So you wouldn't necessarily, it wouldn't happen, I'm sure, because you get people with different schedules, but you wouldn't necessarily get, say, 30 people turning up to the same session. Is there some way that you kind of control the numbers, so it's, you know, so you know, like you say, you know who's coming in, and you know you're not going to have too many people at once?
Yeah, like for instance, you know, I put a cap at 30 for my morning hour, you know, for my morning shift, which I average about per day about 15, 16, 17 people in my morning, but that's within 4 hours. So it kind of balances out. The most people, like the most that will be here at one time will probably be 10 to 11. But it's kind of self-regulating. I mean, some people, they see the schedule, and people have been training with me for years. So they know, oh, well, look at the schedule. They might just decide to come later, or they might not. I don't know, you know, it's kind of, I haven't really fallen into that big of a problem with it. I mean, sometimes if I getting like, because there's up and down parts of your seasons where I'll get, let's say like 15 people that show up at one time. It's happened a few times. It's a little tight on you. It's a little stressful, but it's not that bad because I know what everyone needs to do, and I just have to find a place for them. But I haven't really fallen into that problem. Yeah.
No, I think that's kind of the way it works, isn't it? Some people like to get up and train at 6 a.m. Some people would prefer to come in at 8 o'clock, and some people, you know, might roll in at sort of 9:15. So it kind of, people have their own natural kind of routines, don't they? Yeah.
It's great. It must kind of self-regulate, like you're saying, because you'll obviously get people who turn up at the same time as someone else, and then they might get on. So they'll get together and say, right, well, when are you going to? And then, so they'll turn up together, maybe, or, you know, one of them will turn up 10 minutes before the other one and stuff like that. So I like what you say, because it sounds, like you say, it almost sounds like everybody could just turn up at once. But I mean, that just doesn't happen. And what it gives people is autonomy over themselves, which I think, especially when people are starting out new. I mean, I know you said you've had people coming for ages as well, but especially when someone's trying to fit it into their lifestyle, and you're like, you have to be here at this time. You've got to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and they're not used to it. Yeah. It's not a good introduction into health and fitness, is it, for most people?
No, and you know, why are commercial gyms always successful, and why do you see a commercial gym always busy? Because everyone in that gym is there when they want to be there. Yeah. You know, they're showing up right after work. They're not, unless you're taking like a group class at the gym or a spin class or something. Obviously, there's times for that. But when you go to the floor, when you're watching everyone exercise, even if it's poorly, they're there because they want to be there, you know, at that time. So I kind of adopted that. But also, we need structure as instructors on our own side. But like when I had just my garage, I had limited space. So I had to do the semi-private, you know, 5 people per hour. And, you know, it works, but it gets tight. You know, some people might show up early. Hey, is it okay if I just hang out in the corner? And then it gets kind of tight. So this open schedule has allowed me to kind of, you know, like say, for instance, when you do a classes and you have a 5 o'clock, a 6 o'clock, a 7 o'clock, and 8 o'clock, that next hour you're on again, and it's a whole new cycle of people, and it's like, oh, here's another 6 right in your face. It's like throwing up 6 people right at you, which can get overwhelming, or it just gets hectic. It's like, okay, I have to get 6 people ready within 5 minutes because they're going to start getting complacent. This way, 2 people showed up at 6. I get them situated, get them set up. Another 2 people roll in about 15 minutes later. 4 people show up, you know, and I already got people kind of organized, situated. I already have things ready to go. It's a lot easier on the trainer's end also, because, you know, you're not getting that influx constantly every hour. Sometimes I get off early. Like sometimes I'll get off if I have a 6 to 10 open. I might get done at 9:30 because all the people that are signed up, they got in and they're done. So then I have an extra hour to whatever I want to do. So it allows me to have more flexibility in my schedule because I could get off early, or I don't have that constant just bombardment of people every hour. Here's 5, here's 5, here's 5, here's 5, you know, and then you have to just be on point. And when you come in and you see my gym, I have some impressive people in here. I have this 65-year-old lady who could press a 32 kilo with one arm. You know, I have another 65-year-old lady who could deadlift 92 kilos. You know, I have, you know, like 70-year-olds that are doing 100 swings in a session with squats and rows and get-ups. And, you know, I'd probably say a third of my members are over 65, and they're all moving great. They're pretty impressive. I have an 80-year-old lady who could deadlift 56 kilos. You know, so people are working hard when they're coming into the gym.
Why? This is interesting then. Do you target, I mean, I don't know how your marketing works or anything like that, but do you target people like that, or do they just naturally, or is it because everyone started when they were 25 and they're now that age because you've been doing it?
You know, partly that. It's, I've had people for like 10 plus years that they have entered their 70s. I started training them. Like I have this one lady, her name's Margie. I started training her at 48. She's now 62. Yeah. So I have literally trained her in her 40s, 50s, and now 60s, you know. And what's really interesting, to answer your question, I don't do any marketing, besides I'm in a networking group where we meet up twice a month. We kind of network, business professionals network to each other. But other than that, I don't do any, it's all word of mouth. But people just they just hear about me. A lot of people are scared in my area of going to a trainer because the first thing they want to say is, oh, I don't want to get hurt, or, oh, I need to train. I need to get ready to go see a trainer because they think they're going to get their ass obliterated and they have to crawl out of the gym. You know, that's the persona over here of what trainers are. So I get a lot of people that, you know, want to exercise, don't know how to do it, or have a lot of injuries. Like I train people with like knee replacements, hip replacements, spinal fusions, vertigo. And you know, it's kind of just happened. They've been referred, hey, you got to go see this guy. If you have a hip replacement, he'll help you get back to being stronger, you know? So that's just kind of the clientele that comes. You know, and I only turn down people who aren't willing to be strong mentally, like as far as, you know, how should I say it? Like they have to adopt the principle of what strong is. Strong is not a weight. Strong is an attitude. And I don't want to hear no whimpering in my gym, like, oh, it's too heavy, which it's not gonna be because I modify things. But you know, I don't want you to go like especially with my lady clients. In the beginning, they want to touch the lightweight. They jokingly say, oh, let me just grab this light pink one over here. And I'm like, yeah, you know, like don't put yourself down jokingly even, you know, like you should want to approach a heavier weight, obviously safely, but over here in the, you know, the being weak is kind of more an accepted thing society wise now, you know, it's like, oh, you know, I don't want to do too much when they say that as like a cushion because they're afraid to get hurt, but they're weak because, or they're how should I say it? It's like they're at a state of weakness where anything can hurt if they do it wrong, or you know what I mean? So
I know exactly what you mean. I say that a lot when people. I've got a couple of examples from the last few weeks actually when people are, and it's not through weakness because it's guys who are in, but. And I'm touching wood here. People rarely get injured when they're training with me.
Yeah.
But when they're playing cricket, or like one guy who texted me last night, one of my online clients who keeps sheep on his property, and he was chasing one of them around last night to try and get it back in the barn, and his foot went in a hole and he's tore his hamstring chasing a sheep. No, but you know what I mean? But he swings around kettlebells and puts over his head and that, nothing, and that doesn't injure him. So it's like, it's. I know what you mean, but so. I say it a lot when people say, like, you know, kettlebells hurt your back and all that. It's like, well, try sitting on the sofa for 30 years. Yeah. That's gonna hurt your back, you know. And it's not usually the lifting the weight that's the problem. It's usually the fact that you're not strong enough to, your body's not prepared.
Yeah, it's like the mindset of what exercise is really supposed to give you. You know, it's like people see the weights and they think that it's gonna hurt them exercising, when it's the opposite. And that's kind of the mindset is like, no, we're in here to get better. The weight is arbitrary. It doesn't matter about the weight. We're focusing on quality of movement. Once the movement is at a proper quality, all strength training is, you just add a heavier anchor to the proper movement. That's all it is. So like a hinge. Okay, let me see you do a body weight hinge without any weight. That looks pretty good. Let's add a light anchor to that. Okay, cool. There's a deficiency in your deadlift once you get too low. So what I do is a good coaching cue. If you have someone with a deadlift that they start rounding their back or they have a dysfunction to it, if they get too low, is just put a stool up high enough where their deadlift is still in proper technique, and then have them deadlift and pick up the weight from the stool. Once they get that proper technique, lower the stool a little bit, lower the stool until they end up doing it on the ground. And now all of a sudden their nervous system has a proper pattern of proper technique from the ground. And now you can start adding a heavier anchor at that point. That's how I got a 70-plus-year-old lady. She couldn't touch her knees without a hinge, or like she couldn't hinge touching her knees. She always rounded with her shoulders. So I brought a stool all the way up to like mid-thigh and just had her hinge until it was only like, you know, you can't see it on TV if no one's watching, but it was just very minimal hinge, like a minute movement. But she got the concept of moving her hips, touched the kettlebell. Then I started bringing the stool, and she didn't even pick up the kettlebell yet until the kettlebell was on the ground. Just had her touch it, stand up, touch it. Then her hinge got deeper, deeper, deeper until she was able to touch the kettlebell on the ground. Then I had her pick it up. You know, it's a very effective way to get people to, you know, get a proper deadlift, is just bring the ground to them and then start working on the pattern on the way down.
That's brilliant, because that goes with, I mean, I say this quote all the time. I used it on the Adam Meekins one the other week, but it's what, when Paul McElroy says strength isn't built, it's granted by your central nervous system. Now, your average person might not even know what that means. But it's just building confidence within the movement, which is exactly what you've just said, isn't it? So this lady might think, well, I can't do that. And it's like, okay, well, let's just work on it and tell your central nervous system that you can do it over time. And it's honestly, if people could get that concept, like it would be brilliant, because then anybody can do anything, can't they? With, like, you know, it just opens up a whole new world to a lot of people.
Brett Jones has a great analogy, and I'm a big analogy guy. But have you ever had one of those car alarms that is so sensitive, even if you like flick it with your finger, the car alarm would just go off, or your neighbor's car, you know, the kid's ball hits it and it goes off. It's just overly sensitive. You know, that's how a lot of people are in their, especially beginning into strength training. They're overly sensitive to like, oh, what's that? Oh, you know, and they kind of need to tone down the sensitivity of their car alarm in order to trust the movement. And that just takes you as an instructor to calm down that individual. I'm not saying like calm down, but, you know, like calm them down. Yeah, don't yell at them, only if they deserve it. But, you know, you turn down you got to get them to turn the sensitivity down on their car alarm, so they're not overthinking it too, because people overanalyze things way too often when something simple as just hinging your hips should be a natural movement that we should do. But we sit down a lot. We're, you know, probably we all know this, you know, hip flexors get tight, we round through the shoulders. So we have to break out of those patterns and get into a proper movement of the hinge. Most of my training revolves around the hinge first. Like if I have a new person come in, they learn to hinge. And one of the main reasons for that is because I could teach them the hinge with them standing up. You know, they don't have to get on the ground. If like I have people with knee replacements, or if I have people with vertigo or any type of hip issues, I could have them stand in place and start working on their fitness, you know, and working on their hinge. So that's one of the main reasons why I start with the hinge. Also, it's the, you know, the connection between the lower body and the upper body. If you could learn how to hinge your hips, you're going to get the concept of a neutral spine, and you're going to get the concept of not moving through the knees first, but getting the pelvis moving first. So I usually start with the deadlift, because obviously, you know, in kettlebell training, the swing is a major component of why a kettlebell is very beneficial. And especially with people, if you're dealing with, general population, exercise library should be very efficient. Well, what's an efficient exercise for general population to use? A kettlebell swing. If you get them doing a proper kettlebell swing, you're going to expedite their goals without, really trying too hard or like adding 20 other different exercises. You know what I mean? So I usually start the hinge, get them really efficient on the hinge, deadlift, and then I go to like either swing or I start working on like upper body progression. Like if they could do a hinge, they could do a one arm row, which is basically a hinge with your elbow on your knee, so then there's an upper body lift, a lower body lift. So I kind of start there where I do like a lower body lift, upper body lift in a minimalistic kind of fashion. And then I build the library from there based on any type of ailments they might have. Like if they have a shoulder impingement, I just keep it below the collarbones. You just don't train overhead. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a physical therapist. I'm not going to, if you have any type of issue, pain, discomfort, anything, I just stay away from it. The game of operation, it's like the game of operation. Don't hit the sides, just grab that in the middle, so I try to stay away from any type of buzz. Oh, nope, stay away from that. And there's many exercises people can do, and you could get them really effective and efficient in their training. You just stay away from those sides of the game of operation and just, Great Cook has a great thing with the red light, yellow light, green light in the FMS, where, you stay away from the you stay away from the red light. Green lights are all go. Yellow lights, you probably need to do maybe a corrective or some mobility work to get that yellow light to green. And that's kind of how I just kind of flow through the people's training, and different templates that I have, like Easy Strength from Pablo and Dan John, Built Strong from Fabio has been great. Iron Cardio from Brett, Jeff Newpert's kettlebell complexes, I use. I use a lot of templates from Fabio. Jeff Newpert I use a lot. Jeff Newpert has a template called Kettlebell Burn, which is one of the original like kettlebell type of programs. And it's a really great program because it's an A-B template, meaning you do A one day, B the next day, A. So it's like if you train 3 days a week, you go A-B-A, and then the following week you do B-A-B, Well, if you did a 4-week cycle, like I'm going to take a step back. If you did a 4-week cycle as a standard hypertrophy plan, you do like chest 1 day a week, legs 1 day a week. Well, in a month, you do 4 sessions of chest, 4 sessions of legs. With an A-B template, you actually do 6 sessions in that month of each of A and B. So you actually get more volume in with those lifts than a standard once a week type plan. So it's really good that way. But the A-B has a 15-minute strength portion in the beginning. So it could be like get-ups for 15 minutes or clean and press for 15 minutes. Then it goes to a superset where you pick 2 exercises, usually a lower body and upper body. So it'd be like goblet squat and single arm row. And then the last 10 minutes is a finisher, which is like swings, snatches, could be any type of like on the minute style that you desire. And that's a very effective template that lasts for about 45, 50 minutes, and you can get people in and out with that A-B strength in the beginning, superset, and a finisher. So I use that. I use complexes, iron cardio, a couple other things I come up with myself, different like templates from like Brett Contreras, the Glute Lab stuff is great. So yeah, so I just kind of use certain templates based on the individual, and then we just build them out and rock and roll.
I was going to ask actually, because if you've got your, say, 4-hour session in the morning and you could have over that 4 hours, 20 to 30 people turn up, how does sort of structure or programming work? Do you have like a template that you would use? Do people have their own programs that they do, or is there like a template and then who comes in, you kind of know that, well, for you, the hinge variation we're going to use is a deadlift, and for you it's going to be a 2-hand swing, and for you it's going to be a hand-to-hand swing or a 1-hand swing. I mean, is there that variability there, but there is a sort of template that everyone's going to do on that day, or how do you structure that?
Yes, and no.
Okay.
Right, anyway, see you later.
So like I have some people that are very like, they love spreadsheets. Like I train a pharmacist, and he's on Fabio's Built Strong program right now, and that is spreadsheet galore. And he's, you know, we've mapped it out. We have the plan already written out. So he comes in, he knows his assignment, and we just go about that. And I'm just monitoring technique and load and just making alterations if need be. I have people that come in that are on minimalistic style of programming. I have some people that come in that are in, I call education phase. So they're brand new. They're learning how to move and be strong, or like learning certain lifts. Like I have this one lady that's been with me for about a month now. So when you just come into my gym, I have this mobility complex on the board. It's pretty much super joints and the McGill Big Three. Okay. So it's move your joints from head to toe. And then I do like a prying goblet squat, downward dog, floor cobra. And then I do like the McGill Big Three. And you have to get that down before you start your training session. Okay. So that's first. Then depends on how long that takes you, because in the beginning, it takes some people like 45 minutes to complete. Well, on that point, 15, 25 minutes into that, I'm introing into lifting. Okay, this is a hinge. And, you know, people have to learn my terminology. If they come from a different gym or if they've never trained before, you have to learn what I'm talking about. You have to understand what ladders are. You have to understand what a goblet squat is compared to a deadlift. And some people are like a deer in headlights when you're trying to teach them. They're like, what? What's this? So basically, you have to take your time with the individual in the beginning and get their vocabulary, their knowledge down. And that's just practice. You know, it's like if you go in, like, say, a jiu-jitsu studio, I mean, you might just do a half an hour of rolling one technique. You know, did you do like a regimented training session at that point? No, I'm just practicing. I'm just practicing my skill. So I have a lot of people in that realm where they're not ready for like a legit routine yet. They're still learning how to properly practice their skills. So when I do put volume on them, they're not going to break. Okay. At that point, then I start slowly introducing volume. Okay. So like, for instance, this lady that just came in, she's been with me for a month. She does 2 rounds of deadlift, 5-3-2 ladder, ascending weight. So 16, 20, 24. She's 63 years old, never lifted before ever. So I'm like teaching her a proper hinge. So now she's up to a 24 kilo in deadlift. And then she does an 8 kilo press and squat ladder. So then I have her just 2-arm clean the bell up. She does 1 press, 1 squat, set it down, 2, 2, 3, 3, builds up to 5 and starts from there. So kind of with that, the best way I really get people to get very strong, very safely is ladders. Okay, with all said and done. And what a ladder is, it's just a progression in repetition. You start at a certain number and you work up to a certain number. They could be ranging from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 2, 3, 5 to, 4, 5, 9, 4, 6, 10. Basically, here's the thing with the ladder. That's the best way to know if you're doing a ladder properly. If you have like 3 sets on a ladder, the last set should equal the first 2. Okay. So if I have like say for instance, I'm going to back up for a minute. You test someone, like say in a goblet squat, and even if you're limited in equipment, like say, okay, well, I only have a 16 kilo. Let me see, James, how many goblet squats you can do with the 16. Say, let's just hypothetically you did 10. Okay. Well, automatically, I am going to always take 2 reps away so you always stay fresh. So now your ladder would be at 8. Okay. Well, 3 plus 5 equals 8. So then you're going to do a ladder of 3, 5, 8. So you're always keeping a couple reps left in the tank. You're not going to failure, but you're hitting that top end. But then you're always going to a bottom set that's like a deload round, right? So you go 3, 5, 8, 3, 5, 8. Okay, there's your lower body lift. I might do the same thing with your row or your press. Okay, well, but let's say, for instance, your press is weaker. So let's say you can only do 5 reps with your press. Okay, I might do a 1, 2, 3 ladder with your press. So it'd be like 1 press, 3 squats, 2 presses, 5 squats, 3 presses, 8 squats. And there you go. Repeat that 3 times. That should take you about 20 to 30 minutes to complete. Okay, well, now we have, after you've done about 10, 15 minutes of warm up, that's about 30 minutes, it's 45 minutes. Then we'll end with either some swings or some maybe heart rate stuff, or maybe it's a mobility session at that point. Maybe, okay, that's enough volume for today. Let's just start, getting some better stretching or some movement in place. But it's a lot of intuitive training based on what I look at the individual and I see how they're performing. If I notice that they're hitting that red line or they're getting towards the fatigue point, I'll pull them back a little bit. If I notice they're talking too much, I have this joke saying it's not jaw day in the gym, so it's like, yeah, there's more reps in your jaw than there are in your kettlebell swing. So let's just change that, so then I'll like either, modify it the next time they come in, or I might, challenge them a little bit differently with either higher rep or change the weight accordingly. So that's kind of how I do it. I start off with like a minimalistic, like a upper body, lower body lift after they learn joint mobility, because it's all about movement. It's all about proper movement skill. Then I start introducing lifts, lower body, upper body. I build the vocabulary, build the exercise library based on their skill set, based on their goals, based on limitations. And then from there, then I go into like a ladder system with most people. Or once they become more advanced, then I start going into programming. Then I said, okay, well, let's do a build strong program. Let's do some it could be a linear cycle. It could be a plan strong. It could be, iron cardio has been a game changer for me with my clientele, Brett's Iron Cardio, because some people come in beaten up that day. They come in like, man, I am dead tired. I was up all night. My dog threw up all over my house. My mother-in-law passed away. They're just emotionally drained. So I put them on a minimalistic program. Okay, well, here's a clean press squat. Let's do 30 rounds of that. Take your time, move about your day. And it has worked clockwork. And the thing is, people know they come in to see me, they're not going to get obliterated where they can't function in their day, but they know it's time to rock and roll. We're going to come in here, work no matter if I feel bad or feel good. And that's how I'm able to keep people for years. They know no matter if they feel like shit, they're going to come in here and they're going to get what they need in their session. Some people, like for instance, today, this lady came in and I was planning on her doing kettlebell complexes today because she's progressive to that state. She's a nurse. She's like, you know what? My back is killing me today. She had 2 12-hour shifts over the weekend. Am I going to give her a complex? No. So today she just moved. She did her joint mobility. She started feeling a little better. So then I dove down into the flexibility world and started opening herself up some more stretches. Hour of that, she walked out, felt great. She's like, thanks. She's going to come back tomorrow, right? And now she's not limited because, back to what I said about, the amount of time people see you is what they pay you. She could come see me 5 days this week, knowing that, okay, I stretched today. I could come tomorrow and get my strength training session in. I'm not like, oh, sorry, I can't stretch today because my session's so valuable because I'm only going to see you 2 other times this week because that's all I could afford. It kind of now it allows me to actually focus on the health of strength training and exercise rather than, well, that's an hour session. Get the hell out of my gym because I have the next person coming in, and it takes away that kind of money grabbing mindset that, some trainers kind of give off. It's like, granted, we need to make money, part of the world, but you shouldn't act like it or like treat it as such. Like one of my old business partners, he was a really money hungry guy. And one of the reasons why I left, because he was all about the dollar versus about helping people. I'm on the opposite end. I think Dan John, he said, a long time ago, you're either in this industry to help people or make money, and why are you here? Well, I was always in it, and this is back to my origin story. I was in it to help people because I always wanted to be a trainer. I just didn't know how to do it. I didn't go to college or anything like that. I just, school of hard knocks, just learned the hard way, and I was stubborn enough to kind of fall into it. So yeah, and like I've just always had that mindset. Even if you look at my yearbook in high school, I was interviewed for the football team, and they asked what I wanted to be, and it says I wanted to be a trainer in there. So it kind of just happened. I've always wanted to be it. I just always loved exercise, and I've just been fortunate that it's worked out the way it has.
Yeah, a couple of things. I mean, I love the kind of the business model and the way that you operate is something that I've not really heard before. And some people do a similar thing, but they'll just have like I say, like a WOD or a workout of the day up on the board, and whoever comes in, bang, you just do that. But I think having that, the kind of the flexibility of the time slots, like you say, the 4-hour window, you come in, but then also the person having that degree of personalization and structure, but kind of personalization within the structure is fantastic. And also I think one of the things that that's really, I suppose, interesting about you as well, Mike, is that I suppose people who, and again, we had a guy on last time called Adam, a couple of times ago now, called Adam Meekins, and he's very abrasive. I'm not saying you're abrasive. He's very abrasive on social media, to kind of, because he's got a big following, and it's kind of how he hooks people in. But when we actually spoke to him, he was totally different than you kind of perceive. And I think that when people come to like the SFG with you and things, because you're very, very strong, and you like your kind of your metal music, and you've got a deep voice, and you got the brick house, and but then when we spend time with you, and when I spent time with you, and you talk about, like we said, I think before we started recording, you've got cats, haven't you? You love your cats, you love your gardening, you've got the clients that you train. You told us about at the cert, the lady who's part of the quilt makers,
quilt master,
quilt master. These ladies in their 70s who come to see you and you train, and you've got that kind of it's funny because you've got that kind of soft care, and you do genuinely care. I think that's one of the things that I'm trying to get to. You genuinely care about all these people, and you've got this kind of caring side, but because you've got that kind of juxtaposition with being a big strong guy as well, I think it's really effective, and it's really it's kind of really unique, isn't it?
I think so. It's I just call that the first layer of the onion. That's why like it kind of with the people always get on me because I never smile in pictures. I'm like, well, you're looking at a picture. If you spent the whole time knowing me, you would know that's not even the case. But it's the first layer of the onion. If the persona if that's going to steer you away, then you're just not strong enough to hang out anyway. You don't get to really know what it's about, because I believe there has to be a balance in life. That's why I like to garden. I like to draw and paint. I'm very artistic. I don't know a lot of people know that, but I like to be creative in that sense. But you have to have balance. If I'm all death metal, if I'm all Slayer and lifting heavy weights and just being this very intimidating individual, then I could see that. But there's many layers to an onion, and you have to just be well diverse. There's balance, my cats, my clientele, my old ladies, I'm kind of like their grandson, in their sense, where, I'm rough and tough with them, but at the same time, it goes to an extreme. It has to be, I put a joking tone behind it, it gets freezing here, probably not English freezing, but like this morning it was 32 degrees, which was 0 degrees over there. It was 0 degrees in the morning. So, I have these propane heaters and stuff in my gym. It gets nice and warm. And I just jokingly, like my client Sue, she came in, she's like, oh, it feels so good in here. I'm like, Well, lucky for you, Sue, I'm about to make it cold. And like just like it's kind of a Pavlish joke where it's like this tough humor, but at the same time, there's like a joking tone behind it. I'm not like, well, too bad, Sue, like, and actually doing it.
Nope.
So, there has to be a give and take with it. You can't be too tough, too rough, but at the same time, I'm a big, big heavy metal guy. Like that's all I bleed is death metal and thrash. But I also love gardening. If you looked at my whole backyard, it's like this oasis of flowers and vegetable garden and trees that I planted and all this stuff I've created because I believe that's important to create balance.
And I think for the English listeners here, you also like the Bake Off, don't you, as well? You said when I met you last time you like watching the Great British Bake Off.
It's some funny stuff, man. Because it's just reality TV shows like that garbage TV, right? You're just watching something so you don't have to think too much.
Yeah.
And it's just my wife actually, she started watching it, and I was like, man, let's watch something else. But then it's pretty funny. I don't know the names, but there's a lady in there, and just how she describes like the food is just hilarious. Like, oh, it's so scrumptious, and like she's has her face shoved with dessert, and she's just talking as she has this food. It's just funny, I think Americans are more brash. Like if you look at like Hell's Kitchen, and I mean that's more of like the attitude of an American, but like with the British Bake Off, there's like some regalness to it. It's in this beautiful, illustrious garden, and it's very proper and manners. Even if they made a shitty cake, it's still they're not putting them down. They're just like, oh, just better luck next time.
I've got a great recommendation for you then in that case, because there's loads of programs like that. But the pottery throwdown, you might like that one. So you'd like pottery, clay, making pots and all that sort of stuff. It's kind of like the Bake Off, same sort of format, but they just get people in and they all make pots each week, and then one gets thrown out. But there's a guy on that called Keith, who's the guy who judges it, the master potter. And if how there's the Paul Hollywood handshake, if they get they do the best tart or whatever. On the pottery throwdown, when Keith sees something he really likes, he starts crying. It's hilarious.
It's so beautiful. He loves it, huh?
Yeah.
That's how I feel about when I see someone press heavy. I just shed the tear.
That's the thing. So Mike, in terms of we'll start to wrap up soon because we've been with you for a while, and I really appreciate your time. It's been fantastic. In terms of pressing, you are. You are a strong. I mean, is the kettlebell press? Is that what would you, if you had to pick a favorite exercise or movement or technique with the kettlebells? Do you have one? Can you do that? Or
well, I mean, I think it's individualized. For my personal enjoyment, yeah, I mean the clean end press, because you cannot press the bell without a proper clean, especially if you're going heavy. I mean, it's very hard. Unless you're Stephen Coots, whose name is Rhino Strength, who could do pretty much anything with a 92 kilo like monster of a man. That guy's crazy strong. But anyway, I digress. The press is my favorite because it's not just a press. It is literally you're picking something up off the ground and wielding it over your head. And to me, that is the biggest form of function, to pick a heavy object from the ground, pull it to the middle of your body, and then push it overhead. Especially with one arm or even double bell. Double bell presses are fun too. I've just got attracted to it. It's Derek Toshner, who's a master instructor. He told me this one thing before where he said, if you get your arm over your head and if your elbow is below your head, you have a short humerus and you are, probably more inclined to press. Well, when I put my arm over my head, it pretty much is right there where my elbow is, like right at the crown of my head. So pressing becomes easier. Like James's elbow is way above his head.
Yeah.
So, you might be a better puller than a presser. you know, in that regard. So anyway, it's just, I kind of said, oh, wow, that's cool. So then I started going into more pressing. But, you know, it's the best way to get up pressing is just do ladders, you know, the rite of
That's what I was
passage.
going to ask, because I know that when we did I think it was when you were a team leader, when it was, I think it was when Zar Horton and Sean Cairns
Yeah.
were over. Yeah, wasn't it? And I know that Sean obviously got you up and you taught the kind of the press section of the workshop of the SFG. And I know that Sean had said that to rebuild your press, you went right down to like using an 8 or a 12 or a 16 again,
16,
and
yeah.
really just built that, you know. And so ladders is the thing, you think, for, because
Oh, totally.
yeah.
And yeah, and the thing is with the press is you need to press a lot and find your groove. And you don't know how good your press is until you really challenge it, because once, you know, Mark Rifkin says everything's easy till it gets heavy, you know, so you have to challenge yourself, but you have to groove yourself properly before you could challenge yourself. If you challenge yourself unskilled, that's where injury is going to occur. So you got to put the time in. That's why rite of passage, return to the kettlebell. I always talk about, every podcast I'm on, I always talk about return to the kettlebell, which is one of the greatest kettlebell programs ever, because it does so much. But those two programs right there are just ladders. 1 rep, set it down. 2 reps, set it down. 3 reps. Once you get to 5, start back at 1. Build your way up. The goal is 5 rounds of 1 through 5. Get it done in an hour. You know, so it teaches you to condense your volume, but put volume in. It's like 75 presses each arm, or if you do double belt, 75 presses in an hour. You do that 3 days a week. You know, that's 225 presses. You do that 4 weeks out of a month. That's 2, 4, 6, 8. That's 900 presses in a month. So, you know, you build it up. I've done thousands and thousands and thousands of presses, and the kettlebell press is going to be the healthiest for your shoulder, especially going heavier, because it's just, it gets the whole plane of motion. It gets, you know, sagittal, frontal, transverse. It does the whole thing that your shoulder does. It's a very, very effective, safe thing to do, as long as you could clear proper shoulder mobility. If not, I'd recommend something like a landmine press, or some type of incline press, or bench press, or floor press. You know, like I train a guy, he's a woodworker. He does custom turn of the century antique furniture, like $100,000 grandfather clocks he works on. So anyway, his shoulders are shot. He's 73 years old, and he can't, he's like this. He looks like he's doing the Thriller dance, you know, his arms are up in the air. So his actual upper body lift is the bench press. It actually has helped his shoulders, because he could pack his lats down and not go overhead, and he gets that horizontal pushing motion, which has helped his shoulders. And I also use like one of those multi-grip bars, so he doesn't have to go all the way out with the straight bar. So then I turned to bench press, and I modified it to a multi-grip, and then, you know, you just manage the load and do ladders with that. But anyway, ladders are a great way for strength training to keep the health of your body. If you want to strength train for years and years to come, do ladders. Find a weight that you could do for a certain amount of reps, take 2 away, and that is the top end of your ladder. And then if you do like a 3-set ladder, the last number is equal to the first 2, and always have the first set as your lighter reps. So like say for 10, 4 reps, 6 reps, then 10 reps. 4 plus 6 equals 10. And there you go. And then that's how you can stay fresh within your training for years and years to come.
That's excellent. So you would choose the 10 as the top number if you could press it 12 times.
Correct. Yeah.
Take the 2 off. Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah. No.
Then you just do that. And then if you have a heavier bell, say for instance, some like say you're the guy you just gave a shout out to earlier in the session, he pressed a 32 kilo one time. Okay. So say that means he could probably press a 24 3 to 5 times, hypothetically. Okay. So let's just say he could do 3. Okay. Well, then his ladder would be 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay. Or if he did 5, then it'd be a 1, 1, 2. Yeah. Because then or you could do like, if he did 5, I'd probably take 1 away and do 4, and then it'd be like a 1-1-2, 1-1-2. And then if he hit 6, I'd probably take 1 away and then do a 2-3-5 ladder and do something like that.
Brilliant. Right, we'll start to wrap up, Mike, because you've been with us for a bit of time, and it's been great. And I know it's probably approaching lunchtime for you now. I'd imagine, and my light seems to keep wanting to turn itself off. Pete, do you want to say anything before we wrap up?
Well, yeah, that's been great actually, because it's just solidified, because that's basically like not exactly the same, but I mean, I've learned from a lot of the same people and stuff like that, and that's how I train with my guys, because they're mainly guys in their 40s, got some in their 50s and 60s, and it's a similar. I do mine outside, and it's a similar setup, but people I do have session times, but they're spread out throughout the morning, so people can turn up to whichever ones they want, and they book in based on what they want to tell me on a Sunday when they're coming. So then they're committed to the week, so then psychologically they're going to turn up. But the whole ladder system, starting people with a hinge because they can do it standing up. Pretty much everything you've said, is kind of. It's just a great way to start people, and then they start to realize how strong they can be. And once that confidence starts to build, then sky's the limit, isn't it? So yeah, that's brilliant. I love that. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. If people want to do, that's one thing. Do you do any online type training, or do you do everything in person?
Yeah, I do everything in person. I mean, you could always reach out and ask questions. I'm more than happy to answer them for you. Instagram, Sousa Strong, Sousa Strong is my name. And I've been really bad on social media because I've been doing this project in this backyard, been moving stone like no other the past 3 weeks. And yeah, so I'm just bad with social media in general. I'm kind of stuck in the 1980s. Back in the action hero days, right, with Arnold and all that. But I'm trying to get better at it. It's just hard because I'm like, I'm going to post something, and I don't. And I'm like, I'll do it later. And then I don't. And then so I need to get better at it. Social media.
You don't, because what you're doing is working for you, and it's working for your life. So you don't need to. I'm
not reluctant. I'm not dependent on social media for my work. It is good though to stay connected with the Strongfirst community through social media, which I need to become better at. But other than that, and like guys like you and Claire and all of them, I should be more relevant on social media. In due time, it will come, I promise.
But you also have a change in life coming up, don't you? In next month.
4 weeks. Having my first child in 4 weeks. So I'm having a little
wow.
girl. Yeah. So
congratulations.
Yeah.
So you won't have loads.
She's ready to have that thing out of the belly, man. so she's ready. So yeah, so we have a little girl on the way. Very excited for that. Making the world a stronger place, one person at a time.
Yeah, so you won't have loads of time to be sitting on Facebook and Instagram then anyway. You'll be busy. So but no, that's great. Yeah, so at Sousa Strong, and I'd really recommend following Mike, and when he does post stuff, it's always great. What would be really, really good, Mike, if maybe I'll message you, and maybe you could ping me a couple of photos of the ones you showed us at the cert, the outdoor, the building you made with all the logs and things, because it really is a work of art. It's like and I can share some of them and show people what we're talking about on the podcast, so they can see it, because it's really, really a fantastic setup there. It looks magnificent. So thanks so much, Mike, and it'll be great. We'll stay in touch, obviously, and this will be going out in a few weeks after we've recorded it today, so it'll be a couple of weeks time, and I'll ping you over the links and stuff so you can see it all. But brilliant. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. Please do like, share, subscribe, leave a review if you're listening on a platform that allows you to do that. That would be iTunes or Spotify, I think. We do have the Health Oddity Facebook group as well. If you go into groups and search Health Oddity and then just ask to join there, and we will join you. We will be back at the next episode. I think we will have Paul back and another guest who I can't remember off the top of my head. It's someone that Paul's arranged, I think, actually. So we will be back next week with another great guest. But thank you. Thanks very much, Mike. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Ron, thank you guys. Appreciate it. Honored. Brilliant.
And thank you very much, Pete. And we will see you all again next week for episode 120. See you later. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Health Odyssey with Peter Lant, Paul Bassett, and James St. Pierre. To get your regular fix of hype-free health, you can subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can find out more on today's and other topics at healthodyssey.com or find us on Facebook or Instagram by searching for Health Odyssey.